Here's how to make sure your Q4 deals actually close in Q4. I use this same approach to go from failing and on a PIB to #1 at Salesforce in 4 different roles. And now I teach the same systems to my clients who are consistently adding 50 to 100K to their income within 12 months using this. If you've ever told your VP, yeah, this deal's for sure coming in, and then it slipped into the next month, like this video is gonna help you. I'm gonna show you a simple framework that helps you make sure your Q4 deals actually close in Q4, increase your forecast accuracy so your leaders trust your number, and create urgency in your deals without sounding like a desperate rep. So here's why your forecast is probably wrong. And here's a quick stat to punch you in the face. Gartner surveyed sales leaders and found less than 50% of them are confident in their reps' forecast. So that means that more than half the leaders that you work with look at what you submit and think, no way this is happening. And if you're the rep who's always saying, yeah, this is coming in this month and it doesn't, well, you're that reason. Now, high-performing orgs are typically within 90% or more accuracy, meaning they'll call $1 million in revenue and they land above 900K. Now, a weak sales org, they'll call $1 million and land at half of that. Like, that's not organization, that's chaos. And being the rep whose number is accurate is a real career unlock that you don't even realize, because your sales leaders build plans and promotions around the reps that they can trust. So how do we fix this? So it starts with how you build your plans and how you talk about time with your buyers. Because here's the difference between the average and elite. It's the mindset shift that they have going into their interactions. So here's how most reps think. An average rep is going to say, hey, help me understand the steps to make a decision in your organization. Because their map is today, discovery, demo, legal, decision. Everything revolves around decision and their quota. It's self-serving. And that's why deals slip and forecasts blow up. Now, a good rep, they're going to go a bit further. They're going to say, help me understand the steps to decide and when you want this to go live and see value. This is better, but they still push forward from today. Now, an elite rep, a rep that unlocks career growth because they're never missing their forecast. Elite reps, they do not build from today towards a decision. They start with, when does this problem absolutely have to be solved by, regardless of who you go with. They anchor around problem solved in the buyer's world, and then reverse engineer the entire journey from that date to today. That's the framework I want you to steal. So step 1 is the drop dead problem solved date. Here's your exact line. When is the day where you absolutely have to have this figured out by, regardless of who you go with? Now, we're not asking when will you make a decision. We're asking by what day must this be fixed in your business? And then you go deeper. If it's the day after the date that you give me, what happens if this isn't solved? What are the consequences of that? Now, by doing this, we're pulling out the consequences, the missed targets, the board pressure, the renewals, the risk. Whatever that is, we're trying to bring that to the surface. Now, once they answer, then you lock it in and you say something like, okay, so let's say June 30th is your drop dead date. If this isn't solved by then, you're in trouble or there's serious issues with the business. Is that fair? Then once they confirm, that date now becomes your anchor. And once we have that anchor, we're going to break that journey into phases and work backwards. Now there's 5 core phases that we're going to break this into from the drop dead date. And it looks something like this. Number 1 is problem solved. This is the outcome that they ultimately care about. Number 2 is realizing value. Enough time using it to prove that it's working. Number 3 is change management. The adoption, the habits, the behavior change, all these things come into play. Number 4 is implementation. This is setup, configurations, integrations, all of that. And number 5 is decision or contract execution. So legal, procurement, signatures, all of that. And to the left of that is where you are today. Evaluation, discovery, demos, internal alignment, whatever that is. Now, average reps only think about the decision. Elite reps walk the buyer through all 5. Now let's hit the phases, the key questions and talk tracks. Realizing value. What you're going to say is, the thing you need to know is realizing value is not the moment you flip the switch. It's when the solution is live, people are actually using it, and enough time has passed to measure some actual results. So think of this as like their light bulb moment using the solution. So you'll ask, hey, when you run an initiative, how long does it usually take before you can confidently say whether or not this is starting to solve the problem? Or you'll say something like, how long would you need to feel confident this is improving? Whether it's your forecast, attribution, productivity, whatever the metric is that they care about. Now, if they say about a month, here's how you're going to respond. Great, let's be conservative and call it 45 days to know it's working, because I'd rather be conservative versus overly optimistic. Now, if the drop dead date is June 30th, what you'll say is, sort of feel confident by June 30th, we want this live and running by mid-May. Does that make sense? Because I don't want you to miss that deadline no matter what. Now you're going to get that nod, and we're going to move into the 1 phase earlier, which is change management. Change management is where value goes to die if you ignore it. This is the training, the new workflows, the managers reinforcing the new behavior, the people actually using the tool correctly. Now, you're not going to ask them how long will adoption take. You know that. You've been a part of hundreds of evaluations and rollouts. They've been a part of 0, 1, maybe 2. You're the expert here. So you're going to say something like, hey, I've seen a lot of successful and failed rollouts. The biggest reason teams miss their goals isn't the tech. It's underestimating how long adoption takes. So for customers like you, once it's live, I typically see 30 to 45 days before people are truly comfortable and getting those early wins. So I want to be safe, and let's plan for 60 days of true change management. Now what you have is 45 days to measure the value and 60 days of adoption. So now you're already 3.5 months out before the drop dead date. If you're thinking about working backwards on the calendar, and we still haven't even implemented yet. And this is where we go to next. Now, the fact is, like, the implementation is the unsexy part. The setup, the data migration, the integrations, security reviews, IT dependencies, all of that. Now, an average rep is going to say, hey, we can get this up and running in a week, because they wanted to make it feel like you're going to turn a switch and it's just going to be all sunshine and rainbows. The reality is that's not true, and your buyers don't believe it. So you actually lose credibility by coming in like that. So what an elite rep is going to say is, hey, I've seen customers go live very fast in a couple weeks, but that's if the stars align, and that's best case. And I don't want to build a plan around a miracle happening. Realistically, for an environment like yours, I'd plan for about 60 to 90 days of implementation, because I'd rather plan for worst case and hope for best case and overpromise versus having you miss your deadline. And by doing this, our level of trust from the buyer goes up. And again, we're positioning ourselves as someone who's trying to set them up for success, not trying to close them. So now let's add that into the timeline stack. We had 60 to 90 days for implementation, 60 days of change management, 45 days to measure the value. So if we're working backwards from June 30th, you're now landing somewhere around late January, early February as what, the implementation start date. And we still haven't signed anything yet. And that's where the next phase comes into play, which is like getting that decision and getting that contract executed by. Because this is the phase where most reps blur together with their evaluation. And that's why their timelines are a fantasy. Because evaluation is, hey, should we do this and with whom? Decision and or contract execution is, hey, we choose you. Now here's legal, procurement, and contract execution. Like, those are not the same. So here's how you frame it. Once you've decided we're the vendor you want, or once you've decided whichever vendor you want, I'm assuming there's still a separate phase where we go through legal, procurement, red line signatures, and really getting you set up as a vendor, all that good stuff. So in your world, from we picked you to fully executed contract, what's that typical timeline look like? Let's say they say 2 or 3 months, you respond with, all right, well, let's plan for 30 days for decision to contract. So we're not planning on everyone dropping everything for this, because I know you have a lot on your plate. Now let's build a stack from right to left. We have 45 days to measure the value, 60 days of change management, 60 to 90 days implementation, 30 days of decision contract execution. Now we've defined everything that happens after they pick you. Now we look at the front of the process, which is the evaluation. Now the evaluation is the phase of the business you're actually in most of the time. The discovery, the demos, the internal discussions, comparing vendors, business case, all the above. So what you're going to ask is, hey, for this evaluation phase, discovery, demos, your internal discussions, once you feel like you've seen what you need to, how long does it usually take your team to align on which direction you want to go? So if they say probably 30 days, you'll say something like, perfect. Well, just to protect you from any surprises, let's pencil in 30 days for evaluation and then 30 days for decision and contract execution. So that's about 60 days total from we're evaluating to we're signed and ready to get in the queue for implementation. Now let's stack everything and tie it back to their drop dead date. So to hit June 30th problem solved, we're looking at 45 days to know it's working, 60 days of change management, 60 to 90 days implementation, 30 days of decision contract execution, 30 days of evaluation. So if we're working backwards from June 30th, that puts your decision contract window around, then you'll insert the date, and evaluation needing to really begin no later than that earlier date. Does that feel realistic if we want to hit your June 30th outcome? Here's the thing, because you've come in with a point of view, because you've aligned with them on their drop dead date, because you've been solution agnostic, you've earned the right to say, if we agree that's the timeline, let's build a mutual action plan so we're not scrambling in Q4. And this is how you shorten the sales cycle without sounding like a closer with commission breath. So here's a quick recap of your playbook to not only get your deals in Q4 to close when you need to close them, but just in general, making sure you don't blow up your forecast. Stop building plans from today to decision. Start with problem solved by drop dead date and work backwards. Then you're going to walk through all 5 phases with conservative timelines: realizing value, change management, implementation, decision, contract execution, and evaluation. Then you turn that into a mutual action plan on a calendar with a conservative buffer. And you only count on deals where you've pressure tested your champion. If you do this, and I promise you, your deals, not only this quarter, but every quarter going forward, they're going to stop slipping. Your leaders are going to start trusting your forecast. Most importantly, your income is going to become way more predictable. So if this helped, hit like so more reps get to see it. Subscribe for more deep dive tactical sales content like this. And if you want my help installing this into your deals in your career, there should be a link in the description to book a call with me and my team. We'll look at your pipeline, diagnose where your deals are slipping, and map out how we can turn you into a rep whose forecast actually means something to their business. I'm Justin J. Johnson. I want you to build systems, not stress. Go kick some ass this quarter, and I'll see you in the next video.